It's up. Okay, it's up. Okay, guys. Are you happy? I can't hear. Am I shiny anywhere?
So Rosalind, Emily's saying that it looks totally fine. The product's a little hard to see in the background, but
Mm-hmm.
I think all in all, okay, good. Um, okay, cool. So let me ask, Rosalind, can you switch to the slideshow?
The slideshow. You mean the JPEG? What slideshow?
The image of Dove Go Fresh. And then Emily, she's going to go back to the set and just show you real quick. And there we go. Yeah, you can see it now. Okay. She likes that better, Rosalind?
Okay.
Yeah, I think everything looks good. So let's, if that's good for you, Emily. Great. So Rosalind, can you go back to the slideshow?
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this incredible thing we're going to do with Stardoll. And I'm going to ask some of your questions. So as we get started, I got so many great questions from all over the country. So here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to start with the question that I thought was really, really good and sent me all over my house looking for my favorite books from all different parts and times of my life. And so the first one that I got was, hi, I need to ask you, what is your favorite book? Okay, I have many. This is The Secret Garden. This was no, there's no cover on it because it's so old. Can you see it? Can you see it? This is my favorite book when I was about, 7, 8, 9 years of age. And I still love this book a lot. I love anything by David Sedaris. I just grabbed the Barrel Fever. See it? I love Life of Pi. It's a book about being a boy being stranded on a boat, on a lifeboat in the middle of the ocean with a huge Bengal tiger. So it's really cool, really interesting, and really well written. And as a writer, that's really important to me. I want a really good story and something that just absolutely makes me think of things in a different way. Then Emily the Strange. I don't know if anybody here loves Emily the Strange, but I love Emily the Strange. Basically, if I look back on it, I would like to be Emily the Strange. She just seems so cool. Like, look at her face. Look at that. I just really like the stories, and they really keep me entertained. When I was in high school, I also really, really liked Henry James. Anything by Henry James, I was really into. And so The Turn of the Screw is one of the classic best books that's ever been out there. And it still is to this day. And I reread them all the time. So those are some of my favorite books. Let's go to your next question, somebody else's next question. I'm always trying to look perfect, whether I'm at school, going to the mall, or being with a friend. Is it okay to feel that way? Don't you think perfect is exhausting? I mean, I think so. I mean, first of all, you're never going to get perfect, right? Because you're always going to think that there's something better that you need to be doing. And I think that there's a really big difference between taking care of yourself and, really feeling like you're doing best by yourself and wanting to put a good face forward. And at the same time, constantly nitpicking about every single thing that you do so that you're never good enough for yourself. And I think that, that this is actually the issue here. When you're constantly trying to look perfect, that you're always going to be looking for something that's wrong. And that's going to make you doubt yourself, and it's going to make you lack self-confidence. And it's never going to be good enough. And so ironically, the strange thing is that the more you focus on wanting to be perfect, then the less perfect you're going to feel. And so there's really no way to win that. So what I would prefer, and what I would really ask you to think about, is that instead of trying to look perfect, that you really focus on when you go out, and out into the world, that you feel good about what you're wearing and how you're presenting yourself. Does it seem true to who you are? And I think that at that moment is perfect for you. This is such a hard one. And so many girls write me about this one. Hi, Rosalind. My friend has been super mean. Like 1 week, she's my BFF. Then the next day, she only talked to the popular girls. Then it went on and off and on and off all week long. What do I do? Well, here's the thing. As much as people want, it could have been, in this case, that you've been friends for a really, really long time. And maybe you grew up in the same neighborhood with her, and you just, were so, so tight, and, you shared all of each other's secrets, and you've been sitting at the same table at lunch forever, and you could never imagine being apart. I mean, this girl knows you as well as anybody does, and you know her really well. Well, what's really important about this is if she has gotten to this place where she's going to be mean to you, and you don't know why. We'll get to the part about maybe you do know why later, but she just decides to be mean to you. And it's really also often when there's somebody else around, like these popular girls. And so one day she's going to be really close to you, and the next she's going to just, not want to hang out with you, and she's going to only hang out with the other girls. And if you are around her when those other popular girls are there, then chances are, and I'm thinking this is what's happening to you, is that you are going to get blown off at the best, right? She's going to roll her eyes. If you say something to her, she's going to pretend like whatever you're saying is really strange. If the other popular girls don't like you, then they're going to make it really obvious also that they don't think it's cool that she used to hang out with you. And so it's going to seem really important to her to make sure that you all are separate, that, you know, you used to be friends, but you're not anymore. Now, a lot of girls that I work with and that I teach really think that if they are nice to this girl and they are like nicer and nicer and try to show what a good friend she is, that the girl will sort of wake up one day and she'll say, oh my gosh, I'm being like so horrible to my old friend, and now I'm going to change and I'm going to go back to being the way I was before. This is really not what happens. And I wish I could say to you that this is what does happen, but it doesn't. You can't wish this girl to be nice to you. And so what I really think in those situations is that you need to take a break from this girl on your own terms, because you are not, and girls don't like to hear this. I mean, they just don't. They look at me and they're like, I don't want this because she's my best friend. You're not going to get to a place where you're going to convince her to be nice to you. And the other thing is, I want you to think about, for all the girls who've been in this situation, or even if you aren't in the situation now, you could be, because it's so common for this to happen. I want you to think about it for the future, which is that even if she was nice to you, right? You go to school and she's nice to you. Isn't there some part of you that's thinking, wait a minute, when's it going to happen that she's not going to be nice to me? Do you really trust that she's like consistently going to be nice to you? Because a real friend treats you well no matter who's around. So you can't just wishfully think that this is going to happen. You have to be prepared, and you have to have friendships on your own terms, even with people that used to be really close to you. So let me back up a second. It's super, super normal for people to go their separate ways for a while. And then sometimes they come back and are stronger friends for it. But what I don't want you to do is I don't want you to try to turn yourself inside and out and please this girl and put up with her being mean to you so that you hope that you guys can be friends again. Because then you are friends on her terms, and her terms include treating you really badly. And that is not what anybody needs a friend for. So you have to take a vacation from this girl. So I would go up to her one-on-one, not around the other girls. And I wouldn't go up to her like at all around the other girls. You know, like when you go up to a girl and you need to talk to her and you say, can I talk to you for a second? And then all the other girls are like, oh God, I can't believe what she's talking about, blah, 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 blah. Don't even do that. No, figure out when you can talk to her one-on-one. Don't do it online, because that's not going to work, because she can spread it around. You know that. And, you know, if you know that you've got a time when you can meet her or, just run into her before class starts or whatever and say, look, something like this in your own words. Look, clearly you don't want to be my friend as much as you used to be, and I can't force you to do that. But what I do want is, and I want you to know, is it really does actually hurt my feelings. But when you're ready to be my friend, I'll be ready. But in the meantime, I'm going to sort of be on the down low for a while. Or I'm not going to, try and hang out with you. I'm not going to try and eat lunch with you. I'm just going to sort of go away and back off. And when you're ready, you come to me. Until then, I really wish you the best, and you're done. So do it in your own words, and before you go talk to her, think about exactly what you want to say so you don't lose your words when you're with her, because it can be really difficult and almost like embarrassing, even though you haven't done anything wrong in that conversation. Okay, I'm just going to go down the line because all of these questions are really excellent. Oh boy, these are so good. I can't even tell you. All right, how can I have a relationship with my dad? Because right now we barely talk. Okay, it is totally like so normal to go through these phases where you're not as close with a parent as you used to be. And for some girls, some girls were like really, really close to their dad until about they start going through puberty. So for some girls, that can be 9. For some girls are 8. For some girls, that could be 14. But in general, girls can be really, really close to their dad. And then when they hit puberty, your dad basically, some dads, even like really, really super cool dads, they just sort of freak out, maybe even internally, when they have a daughter who's going through puberty and they think that they don't know what to say to her besides things like, do you know what boys want? And you should be careful. And what are you wearing? And things like that. And then that makes you like, ew, Dad, don't talk to me. That's weird. So I want you to think about this, because your dad, even, probably means like really absolutely the best, but he's looking at you and you're changing and he's feeling like this little girl that he used to, like play baseball with or shoot hoops with or, things like that. Now he's thinking like, does she want to do that with me anymore? And you very well might, And you might be interested in other things. It's just that he's feeling like, what can I talk to her about? And it also could be that you don't feel like talking to him anymore about things that are really personal to you. And your parents are people. Your mom and dad, they are people. They have emotions. It's true. I know it's strange sort of to think about sometimes, but your parents really do have feelings. And sometimes they can feel really rejected when you used to want to spend a lot of time with them, but now you're spending a lot of time with your friends. So all of this is like, it's all jumbled up into one big thing, to the point where your dad, picks you up from school or sees you, at night at dinner time. He's like, so how's it going? And you're like, it's fine. And then you don't know what to say, or he doesn't know what to say. So what should you do? I think you should go up to your dad to a certain, or you can even write this to him. And you can do this by email if you want, whatever's more comfortable, or you can write it on a piece of paper, like slip it under his door or put it under his pillow and say, something like, but this has to come from you, like what you sincerely feel. So just think of this as a springboard to what you want. Dad, look, I really love you. I'm getting older, and, I have my friends, and my friends are really important to me, but you're really important to me too. So how about we go and get go do something that you guys used to do. And then tell him a tiny bit about your life, because he really does want to know, and he doesn't want to feel shut out. And, if he gets to that place where he starts giving you advice and it starts getting annoying, I would say to him, Dad, I really love you, and I really just want to tell you what's going on in my life. I don't really necessarily want advice right now, and if I want advice, I will tell you. I will ask you. And I think that that's fair, but just remember, he's a person too, and he's probably feeling hurt in a way, or sort of overwhelmed that you're getting older and that you've got more stuff going on. So just remember that, and reach out to him, because for the most part, most dads will jump at the chance. And it's really important, by the way, to have a good relationship with a dad or some adult guy in your life, because as you get older, and if you want to date guys, and if you're interested in that, and you're interested, as you get older, then, and there's a boyfriend question down here that we'll get to later. It's important to have a guy in your life that really has your best interests at heart, that you can really talk to about what you feel and about what's going on. So remember that. Keep in the back of your head, because it's not just about your relationship with your dad. It's also about being able to have a support system as you get older. All right, I think I'm just going to jump around a little bit. How do you get ideas when you write a book? Well, tons of ways. I write, for those of you who don't know, I write nonfiction, I write fiction, and so nonfiction is like facts, and I write these how-to books for parents about what the world looks like to people that are your age. And the way that I do that is I have people your age tell me what the world looks like, because I could never do that without getting people's opinions. So it's really, really think of this. I cannot imagine writing a book about teenagers or about young people and not having them be the primary voices in those books. And so what happens when I write the nonfiction books is I sit down with, people like you, and I say, okay, what is wrong about what I've written, and what is right, and what do I need to include? And then people like you tell me. And when I'm doing fiction books, like my Boys, Girls, and Other Hazardous Materials that some of you wrote me about, then I have them edit the book. So last time when I did that book, I had a group of high school people for their class. I would come in once a week, and they would edit every chapter for me. And so they would tell me what was relevant to them, what wasn't, what seemed, like something that they wanted to read. So overall, the ideas that I get from my books are always coming from people like you. And so I've just started actually to write another book for boys, and it's going to be like the Queen Bee's version for girls. It's going to be that for boys and their parents. So if anybody wants to help me out with that, I am very open to hearing it, because we need to have girls help out with this too. So in that book, for example, it'll be things like, if a boy gets, how about this? You're in 8th grade. You're an 8th grade guy, and for no reason that you can think of, a girl in 8th grade has decided that she hates you, and she will not tell you why. Right? How many times have you, when somebody has said to you, I'm really mad, right? You say, are you mad at me? And the person goes, no. And you say, oh yeah, right. That person hates me. So imagine being a guy and have that happen, and then all of the 8th grade girls ganging up on you and then getting the whole class to hate you. Well, that happens to a lot of guys. So the book is going to be about things like how to answer those kinds of situations. What do you do in those kinds of situations? Okay. Let's see. Where should I go? I did that one. Okay. Some of these are such good questions. I've been thinking about them and thinking about them. So here's when I've been like, oh my gosh, what do I do? What do you think is the most helpful piece of advice you can ever give? Wow, this is hard. I mean, so hard. And I've been thinking about this as I've seen it for a couple of hours. I've been thinking about what is the best advice that I can give, or that I do give, I can ever give. There is so much pressure on that answer. I think the best advice I can ever give. See, but you have to, like, how do you choose one? But the best advice you can give is that you need to take care of yourself. And what that means, there's a huge sort of answer about what that means of taking care of yourself. And so in general, I think what that means is that you are clear with yourself about what you are comfortable doing with people and what you are not comfortable doing with people and friends, anybody, and that you write it down and you say, this is who I am, this is what I stand for. And when somebody goes against that, then you've already thought about, well, what is it that I fundamentally disagree with, that I fundamentally say, you know what, this isn't something I can support. I have to speak out. I have to stand up for myself. And I think being able to do that helps you throughout your life. But I also have to say, there's just so many things, is that the way that I come to my work is about dignity, about that you have the right to speak no matter what, and that nobody has the right to take that away from you. But the other part is that the world is filled with people trying to do that. So trying to take that away from you and trying to, keep you quiet from everything like, oh, be quiet. Like, I'm just joking. Don't be ridiculous. Don't be a drama queen. Like, all those things totally shut you down and shut you up. And you have the right to speak just like everybody does. So I think the most important thing, I've decided, I think the most important thing is to remember that your dignity is not negotiable and that nobody has the right to take anybody's voice away from them. So that nobody should ever be saying to anybody, you just took it the wrong way, you're a drama queen, or be quiet. And I think if you remember that as you go through your life, that it'll be something that's important to take with you. Okay. Let's see. Hi, I love Dove Go Fresh. Do you use Dove Go Fresh? Yes, I do. Actually, so I'm a spokesperson for Dove Go Fresh, and I'm incredibly proud to be able to do that. And I want to talk to you about, why is it that I decided to do this? And the reason is because those products are about taking care of yourself. And girls are, they're hitting puberty at younger and younger ages. So we've got girls who are 8 and 9 and 10 years old who are going through puberty. Now, that also means that there are girls who are a lot older who are going through puberty, but the range is pretty wide. And as you can tell, I really want girls to be able to take care of themselves. So there's two things. One is I think that, starting to be able to take care of yourself and your body is really important. And then the second thing is that I think that this is really important in that, this is one of those ways when you're in 4th and 5th grade that people start to tease you about people going through puberty. Because one of the first ways that people do that is, by sweating and those kinds of things. And then people will tease other people about that, which is never, ever right. And so I feel like being able to take care of yourself in this way is really important. And it's one of those baby steps that you start now, that you're continuing to take care of yourself in a good way throughout your life. So what is my favorite? My favorite, is that what you asked me? What is my favorite? Where is that question? Yes. I think my favorite is the purple one. I have one here. Here, look. Yeah, but I can't even pronounce one of the words. Plum and sakura. That's my favorite one right now. I used to like the cucumber one, but this one I like right now. So I do use them a lot, and I use the mists a lot too, because I don't think they're that strong. So it's like sort of a nice balance. And I feel good about that, and I feel good about being able to talk to you about that, because I think it's so important for girls to take care of their bodies in positive ways. Okay. I did the advice thing. I'm still thinking about the advice thing. There's just so many more. It's a little, that was a very big pressured question, I have to tell you. Whoever asked me that question, that was a very big question. I really love your book, Boys, Girls, and Other Hazardous Materials, and I had a wonderful time reading it. And I have a question. How did you come up with the idea for this book? Well, besides the fact that I had that group of kids who are working with me, a lot of times, all over the country, and in fact, all over the world, kids your age, boys and girls, will tell me their stories and ask for advice. And, or I go to a school and a kid says to me after an assembly or after one of my classes, and they say, hey, can I talk to you for a second? And when somebody says that to you, that they're never just going to talk to you for a second. You know that there's going to be some big story, something that they need to share. And so I have to tell you, it's not just girls. I get a lot of boys talking to me about things that are somewhat very similar to what girls go through. And so all of these stories I have, and I answer kids, they email me or they put it on Twitter. They don't usually use Facebook. Kids don't usually use Facebook because all their moms and their teachers are on my Facebook page. But you can certainly go do that. But usually it's mostly adults. So on Twitter, or people just email me directly and they ask for advice about things. And some of the stuff can be like really, really heavy, really heavy stuff about bullying, stuff about feeling really bad, feeling bad when you have a friend who's caught and being bullied and you don't want to say anything about it because you don't want it to come on to you. You name it, kids have talked to me about their problems. When they date somebody that their parents don't like, when they're hiding something from their parents and they hate it, because you don't like necessarily lying to your parents about something. So all of these stories I've always kept really secret. I can't share people's stories. So what I did is the novel, The Boys, Girls, and Other Hazardous Materials, is basically a combination of a lot of the stories that people like you have told me about over the years. And so I sort of combined them and changed them a little bit. So I wasn't betraying anybody's confidentiality in their story. But at the same time, I wanted to give voice. I wanted to show what people like you are dealing with, because I think a lot of times adults don't really give credit for how complicated and how difficult some situations are that teenagers are in. And even younger kids are in. And we don't oftentimes give credit to the family difficulties that are going on or how kids are impacted by that. So, or, how difficult school can be, or what happens if you have a teacher who, humiliates you, who says something like, what are you, stupid? Or, laughs at you about doing, or makes some kind of sarcastic comment about some test score you got, or some other kid. And I wanted to be able to tell those stories. So that book, that novel was a way for me to be able to tell those stories without betraying anybody's trust. And I have so many more stories. It was like, it was hard to choose which ones to pull in to sort of braid together to make the plot. And I loved, by the way, writing the book. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I've never written fiction before. It's scary because you think, maybe I'll fail. And I'll fail and all these girls will hate it, or, people won't like it and it'll be embarrassing. I mean, I really had a lot of fear about writing this book because I had never done it before. But I really do think, and here's the advice part coming back again, is that I think that you do things that scare you the most. I think that one of the smartest things that you can do is take the right kind of risks. And sometimes those risks mean that you make yourself vulnerable to embarrassing yourself and not looking like you're very good at something, like writing this book. I was really worried about it. But I feel like it's really important to challenge yourself and to do things that make you uncomfortable and say, I don't know if I can do this or not, but I'm going to try. I think those kinds of risks are absolutely one of the most important things to do. So I don't mean, of course, like jumping off of like the bleachers, the top of the bleachers at, your school, like the ones where you pull out, like someone says, hey, like, can you jump all the way down? That's not the kind of risk I'm talking about. Or, as you get older and you go to parties and like crazy things go down and people dare people to do crazy things. That's not the kind of risk. I'm talking about the kind of risk where you really don't know if you can do it. And the only way you're going to find out is if you do. And you take that leap of faith that somehow you'll figure out a way as you go through it. So I learned a tremendous amount through the process. And frankly, one of the coolest things that I ever get, I sometimes get emails from boys and girls that say, I hate reading. I don't like reading. Never read a novel, and I read your book and I loved it. And now I'm reading other books. For me as a writer, that's pretty much like the best thing I could ever hear. Okay, let's see. Where should we go now? I said the thing about boyfriends, so let's go to the boyfriend thing. Okay. Hi, Rosalind, and I wanted to know what age is a good age to have your first boyfriend? A lot of my friends had their first boyfriend in 4th grade, but I thought that was too early. I had one in fifth grade, but only for a day because I realized he was mean. Well, good job, because you don't want to be hanging out with a mean guy. Like, really, no mean friends, no mean guy. So I wrote myself some notes about this, because sometimes, here's my notes. See, I wrote some notes in preparation for our talk today. So here's what I think. Number one is, you can think, as a girl, you can think all different kinds of things about boys. Like, you could be totally boy crazy, or you could sometimes care, or you could not care, or you could never care, and all of it's totally fine. Really, totally fine, wherever you fit in that whole spectrum. And you could have friends who also, you could have a friend who's like totally boy crazy, and then you're not really so into it, and then it can sort of feel strained between the two of you, because you feel like in order to hang out with her, you've got to like sort of sell yourself out and be somebody you're not, and be superficial with boys. And, like if you have a friend, for example, remember that BFF friend we were talking about before, where she now likes to hang out with popular girls? Well, what happens if that BFF girl, who used to be like super cool and chill, now hangs out with guys, and when she hangs out with guys, like she laughs really strangely. You know how girls laugh really strangely when they're around guys that they like? And you're thinking like, that's weird, and ew, and she's totally fake, and that's not the friend that I grew up with, okay? So you could have, what happens when some girls are really into guys and some girls aren't, is that it sometimes makes it difficult to keep being friends. And that's really, really normal, and really something that can happen, where it's it might take a while for you guys, and it's hard to be friends, if not impossible to be friends while that's happening. So, so in answer to the question, and this is somebody who's in fifth grade, or maybe is going to sixth grade now. I think it's really awesome that she, had a boyfriend for a day and then realized he was mean. So I guess she broke up with him. So that was great. But I really want you to realize that you can fit into the whole spectrum. And then the other part is that, people have crushes, and you can't help that. I mean, I had such horrible crushes when I was, horrible meaning so painful, and so, like the guy would come into the room and I would just like die. I couldn't breathe. Right. And it was like every year of school, I would have like one crush that was just relentlessly overpowering to me, and I could like barely like breathe around this person. And of course, I thought everybody knew, and it was totally embarrassing. So crushes are totally, it's what happens, and the most important thing is to breathe, and hopefully, and if and you try and just take deep breaths, because otherwise it can feel just like too much, and it's too overpowering, and you can't think, and then your friends will notice it, and then they might tease you. Which is fine. It's just that, just breathe. So, and then what I want you to do is, if you really get to a place, and I don't care how old you are. I mean, if you're in fourth grade, you're 9 or 10, fifth grade, you're 10, 11, if you're 18, it doesn't matter. What I want you to do is I want you to write down, I sort of said this a few minutes ago, like, what are the 3 qualities that you have to have in a boyfriend? Like, I don't care if you think he's the cutest, hottest guy that everybody loves in the 7th grade. Like, if you're in 7th grade and watching this, one of the bummers about being in 7th grade and 6th grade and 5th grade, it gets a little better as you get older, is that like 2% of the boys are sort of cute and hot, and that means that all the girls are like really like focus on him as being like the hot boy. And so, as you get older, it gets like 2%, 5%, like the boys sort of even out, and it's fine. But in middle school, this can be really, really, it can be like 1 or 2 boys who get all the attention from the girls. So if you like one of those boys, it doesn't really, I don't want you to even think about who it is. I want you to think about what is it that you have to have in a boyfriend for you to want to hang out with this person. So I would make the suggestion, but you have to make it for yourself. Sit down in your room or some quiet place, like your own private space. I don't care where it is, and write it down and say, okay, what are my boyfriend standards? So my boyfriend standards, my unbreakable boyfriend standards, are that he will joke around with me, but he won't put me down. He won't make me feel stupid. He won't treat me like he won't, when he's around his friends, he won't treat me like he doesn't know me. So he basically treats me the same, or that the way that I feel good and comfortable around his friends. If you're older, one of the things I would think about is, he's comfortable with like my level of physical affection. So for example, as girls get older, one of the things that happens, I think sometimes, is that boys like to sort of hang on girls. And if you're okay with that, that's your own personal definition of that's okay for you. But lots of times what I know from girls from like 8th grade on or 7th grade on is that boys are hanging on them. I'm not talking about your friends. I'm talking about boyfriends. That they're hanging on them and they're like always being really, really physically affectionate, if you know what I mean. And the girl is really uncomfortable with it because it's like you're like, okay, I'm in public. You need to give me some space now. And people need to respect your space. So you could say on your list, like, he respects my space. And I can say to him, I want you to back off without him freaking out or getting like, sort of sullen or getting mad at me. You get to say things that you want. So you have to come up with like 3 to 5 things that are your absolute criteria for unbreakables for boyfriends. And then what I want you to do is do your breakables. Like if he treats me X, Y, and Z, like what she said, if he's mean to me, and I would be specific about what it was so that you're clear. What is it that you don't like? Then put your unbreakables. So you have this list, right? Backwards and forwards on a piece of paper. You have this list and you can take it with you or you can put it in a private place. And when you get into a confusing situation with a guy, and really relationships are confusing, right? Friendships are confusing, and having relationships with people is even more confusing because you don't sometimes know what they're talking about, or he says something to you in the hallway and you're like, what does that mean? Right? Then you got to go talk to your friends about what does that mean? You don't know. He said hi to you and you don't know what that meant. So I want you to think about it. Like, have your piece of paper. And if you get to a place where you have a boyfriend, then I want you to say, well, is this boy acting according to what I want? So this is a very long way to answer you, which is what did you ask me? When's a good age to have your first boyfriend? And also boyfriends can mean different things. It could mean like there are girls who have boyfriends who don't even talk to the boy. You might know this girl. You might be this girl who you've had a boyfriend and you didn't really talk to him. You just talked to your friends about this boy. Like maybe you talked to him for 5 minutes and you're like boyfriend and girlfriend and that was it. So it really, really matters about like how you're defining this. So depending on your age, what's most important is to be comfortable with what you're doing. I have to look at my notes now because it was a very complicated subject. So I wanted to make sure that I got all of my notes. So I got it all down. So, all right. And so as you get older, your definition of what you feel comfortable doing can change, right? Of course it can as you get more mature. But I think the bottom line is that you always want somebody who is going to be respectful to you, who isn't going to put you down, who isn't going to treat you differently around his friends, and who really is able to listen to you when you're able to say, there's something going on that I don't like. It's easy when everything's great and everybody loves each other and it's like, oh, it's so great, so great. But inevitably, when you're in a relationship with somebody, friendships or any kind of relationships, you're going to have moments where you get mad at the person, and you have to be able to speak that, and they have to be able to speak that to you, and then you've got to be able to hear it, and they have to be able to hear it. So, doing that, I think that that's a pretty complicated thing to do. And so think about what your definition is, think about what you're comfortable doing and what you're not comfortable doing. And so then you have to decide when is the most appropriate age. Okay. Let's see what we've got here. We have many questions. I always wear a one-piece bathing suit and all my friends wear bikinis. The only reason I don't wear bikinis is because I think my stomach is fat. What should I do? Well, most importantly is I want you to be able to have fun and not be self-conscious when you're at the pool. When girls are tugging, when they're tugging on their shirts and things like that. See, I'm doing it right now. See, I'm tugging, right? When I see girls tugging like that, that means to me that they're trying to cover up their bodies. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to be able to go to the pool and have a good time. So if you feel if this is the way you're going to feel comfortable moving comfortably, then wear the one-piece bathing suit, because there's lots of really super cute one-piece bathing suits. And really, what I want you to do is I want you to think about, well, what do you feel comfortable doing with your body? And if you don't feel comfortable, then don't do it, because you're the person who gets to decide that. Now, having said that, I also want you to realize that we all, as women in this society, girls and women in this society, especially with stomachs, there's particular body parts that like make us crazy, because it's like we have to zone in on these body parts of our stomach and our legs and our breasts and say like, are they good enough? Are they good enough? And lots of times girls think, no, they're not good enough, and they're never going to be good enough. So I want you to think about when you're feeling, because you're saying that you're feeling that your stomach looks fat. I think I want you to focus on is more than your stomach looks fat is, are you healthy? And are you exercising? And do you feel good about exercising? And, are you taking care of yourself well? Because that's the most important thing. Now, I know, having said this, right, this is like one of these adult things, right? People say, like, oh, feel good about your body, and, be self-confident because you're beautiful the way you are. Of course you are, but that doesn't help. I do get it, that it doesn't help when you're at the pool or when you're getting ready to go to the pool and you put on the bathing suit and you're like, oh, I hate my stomach. I get that. I just want you to realize that you're up against a tremendous amount of pressure on you to make you feel like your stomach is fat and to make you feel like it's never going to be perfect. Like the first question that the girl asked me was, I always feel like I need to be perfect. And it's never going to be good enough. And let me tell you, girls are not the only people who have this problem. Women have this problem. I have this problem. I have the same problem when I put on bathing suits. Like going bathing suit shopping, who likes bathing suit shopping? You go in and you're like, oh, okay, I guess this looks okay. So really, I totally get it. And I just want you to be able to focus on the things where you feel comfortable and where you feel good about yourself and you're taking care of yourself. Okay, let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm getting nervous answering these questions because some of them are about crushes, and I always get nervous about crushes. All right, so I'm going to answer an easy one first, and I'm going to think about the crush questions, the more crush questions. While I'm answering this question, I can do that at the same time. So where can I get your book? You can get my books pretty much, anywhere, like at a bookstore, definitely on Amazon. So there's a couple books. One is Queen Bees and Wannabes, and that started out as a guide for parents about what the world looked like for their girls. And when I first wrote that, like super long time ago, I really never, ever, ever thought that girls were going to read a how-to book for parents about girls. But it turns out that a lot of girls read Queen Bees. And basically, and then about 2009, a year and a half ago, I had to redo the book because it wasn't good enough for your generation of girls because things had changed so much with texting and, all that stuff. So I needed to redo it. And there were also some things that girls and guys wrote to me about and said, you didn't do this right. You need to redo it. So, for example, I sort of might have in the first edition come across as thinking or saying to the parents that, like, your children will definitely lie to you. Like 100% of children will lie to their parents, which is not true. I know that's true. I lied to my parents a lot, but I know that it came across wrong. And so lots of girls and guys wrote to me and said, hey, like, I don't lie to my parents. So I needed to change it because I really, I believe really strongly in reflecting what, young people tell me. And if I'm wrong, then I'm going to fix it. That's what you do when you make a mistake. So I redid Queen Bees and Wannabes, and it's got a lot more technology in it. And there's a whole section that I think is one of the better parts of the book that's basically like, how do you and what do you do? Like, what do you do if you have a friend who gets mad at you but won't tell you why and you are sick to death of it? What do you do? What do you do if you apologize to somebody and they say, like, okay, fine, and you know that they're not believing it? So it's a whole section on what to do in very specific situations. And so you can get Queen Bees and Wannabes anywhere. And then there's another book called Queen Bee Moms and Kingpin Dads because I wanted to write to parents about what was going on among parents because it wasn't like girls were the only people that could gossip about each other and do mean things to each other. So I wanted parents to be able to be open and honest about the things that they were doing that might contribute to the problem. Or get like over involved in their children's lives, or sometimes just totally back off, totally not even be there when they needed to be. And then the other book that I talked about, the Boys, Girls, and Other Hazardous Materials, you can also get pretty much at any bookstore or on online. It's pretty easy to get. And they both come in soft cover, so they're both about $12 to $15. Okay, now we're gonna go to the crushes. How do I tell my crush I like him? You mean like you don't want to just go up to the guy and say like, oh my gosh, every time you walk into the room, I like fall over, I'm about to die because I love you so much? You don't think that that's a realistic thing to do? Okay. Well, I have to tell you, I think it's so funny that I'm asked this question, and I'm asked this question quite a bit because I was so shy about this stuff. Remember I said a few minutes ago that I had like really bad crushes, like horrible big crushes. And I was so, so, so shy. So I think it's pretty funny that I'm being asked advice, but I've learned something, in the subsequent years since I was a teenager. And so this was what I would tell you. And I want you to know I get just as many questions from boys about this question as I do from girls. In fact, recently I got a question from a 13-year-old boy. Excuse me. I was emailing, doing business, and I get this. He was on Gmail, so he saw that I was on, and he directly G chats me. It's like, Rosalind, I'm about to go out for the first time, and see this girl that I have a huge crush on. Would you please help me right now? What do I say? So I just stopped everything I was doing, and I had to coach him through being able to talk to this girl for the first time. It was hilarious. So I just want you to know that both boys and girls are oftentimes feeling very similarly. So how do you tell? How do you tell the person? Well, I think you should back it up a second, which is, remember, you got to start with okay, I'm having a crush, which means it's going to be hard for me, so I need to breathe. And then I think that the subtle kind of thing is good because people know, most people sort of get it, right? You have to be able to see if this guy is getting it or not, that you like him. So you've got a couple choices, right? You can go in a group. And groups are good because it's a little safer, right? It's like if it totally bombs and he won't talk to you, then you can go talk to your friends or talk to some guy friend that you have. So I like the group situation because it's low risk. And then what I would do is, I would try and pay some attention to him. I would not do things like try and sit on his lap or, shriek or do that thing that girls do where they look like they're much less intelligent than they actually are. I want you to be your real self around your crush. And then pay some amount of attention to him. And I think that and then after you see him, then you can text him and say hey, so fun to hang out. And then see if he responds. And if he responds, then you take it step by step by step by step. Now, the thing you have to think about is is how public you want to make this. Because I know, and I totally, totally understand why. If you have a crush and say he texts you back, right? So you go out, right, in this group. And you guys are getting along well. Maybe you sit next to each other, or you go to the movies and you sit next to each other. So things are awesome. And then you write him afterwards and he writes you back. And then you want to share that with all of your your friends. You're over at your friend's house and then you go, oh my gosh, I got this text, and then you're showing it to everybody. I just want you to think about the fact that when you do that, it becomes more public. And some boys are really shy, or they feel like they're being backed into a corner. They get overwhelmed very easily. Now, there's some boys who are totally obnoxious, and that's another group of boys. But sometimes boys get really overwhelmed and they don't know how to talk about it. And this crush stuff, and this girlfriend stuff can be really overwhelming to them too. So I want you to think about if you were a boy and you liked a girl, and you go to the movies, right? And she says hey, that was so fun hanging out with you. And you write back and say, yeah, me too, some variation of it. And then you find out as the guy that all of the girls in this, this group of girls all knows and is all talking about this. Isn't that going to be really overwhelming to you? So I just want you to think about that before you share your crush drama with all of your friends. So you might want to keep it a little bit private so that the crush and how it goes is more on your own terms. Okay. Now, keeping part B of this question is also equally difficult, is how can you tell if a boy is interested? All right, I know people say, you have to excuse me because I have a little bit of a cold. I know people say that, if a boy hits you, that he really likes you. Okay, but really? Do you want a boy to show that he likes you by hitting you? No, you do not. So what I think is, sometimes it can be hard to tell if boys are interested because they can act so goofy. They can, I bet you've seen boys who are, 13, 14, 15, 18 years old, whatever. And then they get around their friends and they're acting like they're about 5. So, sometimes I feel a little bit bad for girls. And I can feel bad for boys too, but there are times when I feel really bad for girls. When, I'm out somewhere on a Saturday night and I see girls, a group of, large group of kids going into a movie theater or just hanging out somewhere. And you see the boys just being so immature and they're jumping around and they're literally acting like they're 3 years old. And then there's the girls that are the same age. And they're just looking at them oh my gosh, I cannot believe this is what we have to deal with. So how you tell if a guy is interested, I think I want you to remember this. I want you to remember that sometimes boys act like they're really cocky as a way to, and show-offy, as a way to cover what they're really feeling. And boys are tricky because in the way of trying to protect themselves or not get teased by other boys for liking a girl, then they can come across as being really callous, being really just nasty or being mean. And there's no excuse. I mean, really, like there's no excuse for him to be mean to you. At the same time, I want you to understand that boys sometimes feel a lot of pressure to make it look like they don't care about anything that's around them, including a girl that they happen to like. So, I mean, this is why I do think that some technology is good. Not all the time. It can be a disaster and a nightmare in a lot of different ways. But in some ways, I think it can be helpful. And so, meaning that, you know, you can text him and say like, "Hey, what's up?" And he oftentimes, boys will feel more comfortable doing it that way. But you also know that he can take any of that information and share it with his friends too. So, I mean, that's one of the things now about technology is that pretty much it looks like it's private, but of course, you know, anybody can use it publicly to really embarrass you. And that's what can be really complicated about technology. But boys feel more comfortable being private, telling them what you really feel. So do most people. So if you want to know if a boy is interested in you, then you sort of have to find out, right? And now you can go ask your friend. You can say like, "Hey, go ask if he's interested in me." But at a certain point, you actually have to talk to the person. And I want you to just really look at when you're talking to him, like, is he interested in what you're saying? Is he a little nervous? That's a good thing. If he's nervous, that's a good thing. You can be nervous too. So, and it really, if a boy doesn't respond to you, or if he really treats you badly in front of his friends, then I don't want you to be interested in this boy. And even if he tells you, like, "Oh, I've got to act that way in front of my friends," no, he doesn't. Like you really, it's if you complain about it, I want him to respect that. So when you're interested in a guy, you also have to really think about, well, what is it that I want? Because this is a two-way street. So important. This is a very important question. How do I hide my tampons and pads at school? This is such an important question. Okay. So I know some of you aren't allowed in the schools that I work in. A lot of you can't bring your backpacks into the bathroom. So what I think is that you should get like a little pencil case, like this big, and you can get, you know, for those of you who are using tampons, it's easier to do that because it's a smaller bag, and you can get tampons that are like this, you know, like that big. And if you have pads, then you can get look for ones that are thinner, that will help, you know, that serve the purpose for you. But most importantly, and where do I have one? I have one right around here. In any case, like get a little small pencil case, and then you can keep it in that, and I think you should be fine. Girls that I work with when they do that, it seems like none of the people at school get mad at them, and then you can feel more comfortable and less embarrassed when you need to go to the bathroom. Okay. Oh, these are such good questions, you all. My goodness. Okay. Let's see. When you're having stress at school, okay. Let me see. There's so many questions. Hold on one second. Oh, here's a short. Yes, I am a parent. I am a mom of two boys. They're 8 and 10. They drive me crazy. They don't really listen to anything I have to say. Sometimes they do, but definitely they're very challenging to me. Okay, so let's see. So here's some more. Hi, my parents just got divorced. Is it okay to feel sad, or should I just get over it? You shouldn't just get over it if it makes you feel sad. I mean, of course it makes you feel sad. Your parents got divorced, and I think you have the right to your feelings. You always have the right to your feelings. Remember I said you get to the most important thing is taking care of your body, which means taking care of this, right? This is part of your body. Your heart and your head, your brain are part of your body. And if they're hurting, then you need to take care of that. And it's only human to be upset when your parents get divorced. So no, you don't, just getting over it, you can't force something like that. And so I think what's really important is, and not necessarily with your mom or your dad, because things can get tricky. And my parents got divorced when I was an adult, and it was still hard. I think what is really important is that you find, what I call an adult ally, somebody that you can really, really trust, that can listen to you and give you their opinion without being judgmental, and that you can say, like, this is how I'm feeling. Like, I'm really feeling incredibly sad about my parents getting divorced, and they don't necessarily want to fix the problem. I think lots of times adults, when kids come to them with problems, want to fix the problem, and lots of times kids tell me they just want to talk about the problem, not necessarily have to go into fix it mode right away. So, I think that it's real. The person who asked me this question, I really want you to think about, who is a person in your life, an adult in your life, I'm going to say it again, who is, has strong opinions, knows you well, has strong opinions, but isn't judgmental, who isn't going to necessarily want to fix your problems right away, can listen to you and help you think through how to handle whatever problem you're dealing with, how to handle that better. So, for example, if you're feeling caught in between your mom or dad, say you're feeling sad, then you just want to talk to that person. If you're feeling caught maybe in your loyalties between your mom or your dad, and you can talk to that person about that, because that's not something you want to talk to your parents about. So it's really important. Everybody who's listening to this should have an ally, an adult ally, somebody who might be your mom or dad, but really doesn't. As you get older, you need more than that. You need an adult. You need to choose the adult that you feel has that qualities, because this person's got parents who are divorced. I'm sure. I bet some of you are dealing with that too. But there's lots of different problems that you need to go to and ask an adult, what do you think? Because one of the things I think that, lots of times people look like me or give advice about to young people, as they say, like, go tell an adult. But they don't talk about, well, who, right? You got to be able to think smart about who is the person you're going to go to, because you can just go to some random person, because sometimes adults don't know what to say, and they don't know how to handle it, and they don't handle it well. Like, all adults are not able to handle a teenager coming up to them or a young person coming up to them and talking to them about what the problem is. So you need to think about, who is this person who is smart enough and cool enough for you to go talk to? And that way, this is asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. It's a skill. And so I want you to think about, well, who is this person for me? And then go up to them and say, even if you don't have a problem right now, and say, hey, this might seem like really weird, but, I'm thinking as I get older, I need somebody that I can talk to, like an ally. And so I want to know, like, can I come talk to you? And that could be like a cousin. It could be an aunt. It could be, your grandma or grandpa. On the divorce thing, maybe not, because the grandma and grandpa can get really, they have strong feelings probably too. Maybe not. Depends on your grandparents. Or if you're in a situation like this where you have a problem that's really facing you, you can go up to the person and say, or email them and say, hey, I really need your help. I'm really having a hard time with this divorce, and I just want to talk to somebody about it. So they obviously don't need to live in the same city as you either. Okay. Should we go back to more crushes and boys? Let me see. How many books have I written? I've written 5. I think I've written 5. I think I'm now on my 6th book. So Queen Bees, the parents' book, a curricula, the novel. So 4. I've written 4 books. So this is my 5th book. What is your favorite part of your book? I'm going to do favorite part of your book. I'm going to do from the novel, The Boys, Girls, and Other Hazardous Materials. And there's this scene. So the basic plot of the book is, there's this girl, her name is Charlie, and she hangs out with like the sort of mean, cool girls in 8th grade, and then she does this horrible thing to a girl that she really likes, or she goes along with doing like a horrible thing to a girl that she really likes that's not in her group on a field trip. Like the 8th grade field trip where you go to like Washington, D.C., which is where I am right now, or Kelowna, Williamsburg, and like the 8th grades, you do that. Cherry Blossoms, I don't know if anyone's done that, but that's what that's the scene in the book. And then what happens is, Charlie gets in this is the protagonist, gets in huge trouble for this horrible thing that she contributed to. And so she gets into it's just a mess. So she decides to go to a new high school. And of course, Nithy, the girl that she was so mean to, without her knowing, they both end up going to the same school. Well, they become friends, and there's a scene where, and of course, Charlie has like a crush on this guy that she hasn't seen in a really long time, but she won't admit it to herself, let alone to anybody else, even though it's obvious to everybody else that she does. And she's at the homecoming dance, and the 2 old girls, like her 2 old Queen Bee friends, come to her school dance, and with one of the guys that she has a huge crush on. And there's a scene in the book where Charlie just unloads on these girls. She just is like, no, I'm not having it anymore. They're not coming into my school. I am laying down the line, and it was so fun to write. And what was even more fun to write was the conversation afterwards, because the boy, his name is Will, has like clueless, even though he really shouldn't be, is completely clueless about what's going on, and she can't believe that he's clueless. And so the conversation between the two of them was so fun to write. I literally was laughing as I was writing it, because it was so, I mean, I've had conversations with with boys like this when I was a teenager all the time, where you think, okay, how could you be this stupid? And the boy's just looking at you like, huh? And you just can't believe it. And so that was my favorite. It was fun to be able to have the girl I really like in my mind get revenge a little bit on, not too much, but like really be able to say her truth to the girls that had been so mean to her and been so mean to this other girl that she really likes. Okay, let me make sure. No. Okay, here's a big no. I was wondering if I should date a guy behind my mom's back if she doesn't like him. Should I? No. Here is the reason why. The reason is because at some point you will get caught. And then your mother will blame the boy that she doesn't like, right? She'll blame the whole thing on him, and she'll hate him even more, even though frankly you were partially responsible for going behind her back, right? So it'll give her an excuse to hate the boy more. She'll come back down on you, probably really controlling because you lied to her, and you're going to get caught at some point. So what you're doing when you date somebody behind your parents' back is you are setting yourself up for a disaster. Like, really. Okay, now, having said this, because this is a very, very common thing, and I have to finish because it's almost 2 o'clock. Oh my gosh. I want you to be able to say to your mom, look, I'm dating this guy, and this is what I've done, my list for, what's important for what my boyfriend is, do the list that I said that you should do about what you want in a boyfriend and what you're not willing to do. So it looks like you're prepared. And then what I would do is like have have a picnic, have a barbecue, or have something informal where the boyfriend, even if he's like super nervous, can come over, so your mom can actually hang out with him. And she can, really, so that she can know him beyond the fact that you like him and it makes her nervous. Okay, you all, it is 2 o'clock. Thank you all so much for, doing this. This was an incredible experience. I had so many questions, so I'm sorry if I did not get to you. I really want to thank Stardoll, and I want to thank Dove Go Fresh for allowing me to be able to talk to you guys. And I hope you reach out to me in all different kinds of ways, because I really want to be there for you. Thanks a lot.